Hello everyone and welcome to the Trekyards mission briefing, your weekly Wednesday, because it's Wednesday dose of Star Trek ship discussion, theorization, review, sometimes people say. We take a look at a ship from the multiverse of Trek, the Prime, the not Prime, the canon, the not canon, the fan submitted, maybe, possibly. All sorts we theorise, discuss, and listen to your feedback, and hopefully do a fun episode on all after the fact. But Stuart, how are you doing, and what are we doing today?
I'm doing very well, thank you, Samuel. And today we are doing a ship from Brian Grider. Believe his name? Grider, yes. And thank you, Brian. He actually donated to one of our causes, so we're taking care of this ship for him. This was a fan-made kitbash ship, TOS, which I love. And this one is the USS Baltimore, so I would assume it's the Baltimore class.
Yes.
We're going to go in with that assumption. And this is an interesting little design for sure. So...
And it is worth saying, this is Brian's design, so full-on Trekyards original mission briefing.
Mission briefing originals.
There we go, as we have done before. So yeah, first reaction, Stuart, what do you think? And I've done, Brian sent us these photos that he took with his physical miniature, and I photoshopped them to be a bit clearer and easier to view, but what do you think, Stuart?
It's simplistic, which is nice because it's TOS, and they did use a lot of the same components and stuff, if you follow the Franz Joseph kind of design philosophy. So, interestingly enough, I had this model kit, the TOS one, and I screwed up my secondary hull, so I had to do the same thing, and I made it... I didn't add the secondary hull like he did, though, but I have the engines in the saucer. It's hanging up there. It's my USS Holmes. It's kind of like a Miranda-style TOS survey ship. So I kind of kit-bashed the same design without even really realizing it. So I think it's a fantastic... I think it would be great, actually, in addition to the fleet, because TOS has a certain look, and they're very plug-and-play components. So I can see them doing something like this to create different styles of ships.
I want to... That's sort of the big discussion point about this episode, but let's go to the next picture, because it shows a little better of what he's done here. He's taken away the neck, he's plugged the secondary hull right in, very, very close. I mean, that's right on that saucer. And then he's sort of, I guess he's swapped the engines around and then plugged... So it isn't a Miranda, it is a different configuration. I think like you say, it depends how you perceive the TOS universe. If the heavy cruiser, the Constitution class, is the ship of the line, is the best of the best, is the newest ship, then other ships wouldn't exactly follow. Those components wouldn't be kit bashed because that's the prime of the fleet. Now, if then they said, well, if after the fact they said, well, this is the best of, and obviously the Connie's is old by the time we see Star Trek TOS. It's old, so that's an older argument, I suppose. But say then they said, well, we've got all these components, we want to build ships that are easily, repairable, on the same principles, this is the best stuff we have, it's the next generation of our design, or the new generation for the next generation. And then they might say, well, how can we utilise and make different configurations on different warp bubbles and different styles? Like Saladin's a great example, we use a simple saucer, plug the nacelle in, or the Dreadnought, same thing, just a bit bigger. So having this, I want to ask you, what would be the functional benefit to doing this if it's using the Constitution class pieces, which is a heavy cruiser? Why would this configuration be a design that's specific? What role would it do, and how is it extra functional? And there is Brian did provide some information, which we'll go into in a minute, but I want to theorise first. So what do you think, Stuart?
That's a good question, because you're basically just eliminating the neck and repositioning the main engine room, I would assume, to kind of that junction point where the secondary hull meets the saucer.
And I'll tell you what, Stuart, let's go to the next picture, because it really shows the vibe of the ship a little bit better. And keep going.
The one thing that see, the problem here is it needs somewhat of a neck, because the main sensor dish is kind of too rammed up by the planetary sensor. There's not enough room. I think it needs to be lower a little bit. Even some modifications just to the front of the secondary hull. But as for practicality, it kind of makes sense. You've got your impulse engine room, your warp engine room, all in the same spot. You can have the feeds going down to the main engines. I think it's actually a little bit more practical of a design than a Constitution class ship as far as that goes, engine room wise.
Yeah, and obviously it clearly follows in sort of the USS Ares Raxnar or Centaur, or those sorts of low slung nacelles, and it does remove the neck as a weakness, as we saw in Star Trek Beyond, you know, it does it feel faster to you? Does it look faster?
It does, actually. I think it would be a little bit of faster scout. Well, you'd have a lower. We talked about this before. The warp bubble, like you said, the geometry would be shaped differently. It'd be shaped more like a bullet as opposed to a bubble, and I think that might create faster warp velocities, or at least more efficient warp velocities.
Yes.
Less power being fed in to do the same amount of work.
Well, there's one thing that we talk about quite often in you know, the warp theory changed several times in the space of Star Trek, from Enterprise to TOS to TNG, and when everyone reaches warp 9.9999 whatever 975, okay, that sounds, you know, you can't go to warp 10 really, but actually every warp another 0.9 actually is an exponential increase. It's actually hugely faster. So, but that isn't the only equation. When you get to those high levels, if you can be warp 0.975 and your enemy ship is warp 0.975, if you can be at top warp speed for 10 hours as opposed to 6 hours, you've just jumped a massive amount of you know, the gap between the two ships. So maybe the ship, like you said, is designed to use because it's using the exact same components. Take out the neck, bring the warp profile down. Maybe we can achieve the same high warp for like 5 hours more. So it's a faster response vehicle. But I obviously, this is the problem with the kit bash though, because if you're designing this ship, you wouldn't have the same secondary hull. You would have pulled that all the way down, so that you know, like I said, the deflector would be visible out. You'd probably change the size of the nacelles. You'd probably make the secondary hull either longer or bulkier to accommodate more stuff. You wouldn't have the exact same dimensions as a Connie, because otherwise just build a Connie. We know the Connies are, you know, incredibly effective.
Yeah, I think what you might actually do is reshape the front of that secondary hull, even kind of angle it up to integrate it into the saucer, and then have more of a deflector like they have on the Saladin class, or the sensor that hangs down from the planetary sensor that can actually rotate.
Well, the issue is if you incorporate it into the secondary hull, it's basically the Ares.
True enough. Although the pylons are going directly into the saucer, which is different.
There are only so many designs, guys. It is worth saying, and not in a bad way. But have you seen this design before, though? That is a question worth asking.
I've seen similar ones. Just fan made ones from based on Franz Joseph or through FASA. I've seen a lot of similar designs, and I like them personally. Now, I don't know what you think about this, but one thing I might change if I did this. I do love the way this looks. Don't get me wrong. But how about the struts coming straight out instead of angled down? So the engines are more at the side, or even lowered and coming straight out of the secondary hull, out of the middle. I think that might look
with incredibly short pylons as well.
Yes, very very snug, very close into the frame of the ship.
That looking. I mean, obviously, you wouldn't have line of sight at all.
No, that would take away the
ship would blow up.
That would take away the Ares comparison as well.
Yep.
But there is a ship. I can't remember the name of it now. Oh no. That's designed similarly with the straight out pylons. Oh my goodness, it was right on the tip of my tongue too. It's not the Belknap. The Belknap has them on the bottom. I think it actually might be the TOS version of the Belknap. But again, that's just a fan extrapolation as I recall. So.
But Stuart, do you want to hear some of the facts that Brian has made about this? So this is a Baltimore class, a medium cruiser. Okay. Length 210 meters, so that's 79 smaller than a Connie. So losing.
Oh yeah, that's based on where the engines are positioned. Yeah.
So you're losing a third ish. Width 127, max warp factor 8, cruising speed warp 6. It has 2 forward on the front of the saucer photon torpedo launchers, no aft. Phasers, same as Constitution class. And this is a direct reading of what he wrote. The Baltimore class was designed to have most of the capacities of the Constitution class, but with less crew, and the class was easier to build, as it does not have a neck. Another plus of the design was because of its compact size and the same impulse power as Constitution class made it very manoeuvrable. The ship bolsters the same phaser complements of Constitution class, but sports 2 forward photon torpedoes on the very front of the saucer, and a dedicated probe launcher in between the two photons. The class has a slightly longer shuttle bay as the Constitution class, which allows it to have more shuttles. It was named after the USS Baltimore, a heavy cruiser from World War II. And so the first of a class was named USS Baltimore NCC 1972.
Very cool. Actually, there's a lot of thought that went into that. I love the photon and probe launchers on the front of the saucer idea.
Well, if you go to the next picture, we can see a front comparison, and there they are.
Yeah, well, we know the Connie has the 3 circles at the front. Not really sure what they are for. There's been speculation for different things over the years, but I love the addition that those are probe launchers or some kind of launcher. I think that it speaks to a good design for me. Yeah, well, and if this ship has less crew, you can take away some of the rooms and quarters that might be in that part of the saucer section, have a dedicated launch bay.
Absolutely, yeah, and then more power conduits to help generate more power and just give it that extra boost of speed. But this, he's saying that it has no photons in the default location, where the sensor dome is. So there's only 2 launchers on the front of the saucer, which is pretty interesting. But what do you think of this front view comparing?
It looks good. It's a good look. It really is. The pylon placement is good for me there.
Yep.
And I know it'll be compared to the Ares quite a bit, but I'm pretty sure this was done before the Ares.
Yes.
And like you said, there's only so many different ways you can design a ship. So when you put the Ares side by side with this thing, there's a totally different front. It looks totally different.
Just this is a kit bash. That is a fresh design. Yep. Which is fine. I mean, they're different. Well, the other one's a new, earlier ship. So this is based on the architecture of a Connie exactly.
Yeah.
One thing that really says to me is that if these 2 ships, if TOS had a smidge more budget, and they already had some of these kits, and they could have kit bashed, and they thought, let's make some of their own. I can see this ship fly next to the Connie in an episode randomly, like the Excelsior did for TNG. Yeah. I mean, not even a hesitation. This is a very natural, very cheap and easy way of having the exact same feel, but a totally sensible ship. I might have just pulled the deflector down a bit. As you said, that was the only real thing. There's a functional issue there. That's bad design, but he's kit bash, not designed from scratch, if that makes sense. So that's bad design, but even if they upped the sensor dome, made it flatter, maybe, or change the dimensions of how the curve goes to fit that, sure. But no, I think this would be a very natural, very easy ship.
Yeah, and that kind of goes back to what I first said too about how this would be a great addition to the TOS fleet, because it makes sense with their design philosophy. If you follow the Franz Joseph kind of look with the Saladin class and those kind of scouts, where they use components that are definitely all the same, just reconfigured in different ways. And plus we know that in the 60s on TOS they did use the AMT model kit in the Trouble Tribbles. When you see the Enterprise outside of the station manager's office in the distance, that's just an AMT kit hanging there that they built. So they had this exact kit available to them at the time, and the way the ease of customization for this kit really makes it would have made it a natural choice to be made into another ship. So
that's why I've said so many times TOS is great, except they needed more ships.
Yes.
Yes. I want to ask one more thing before we go on. He said it's cheaper to build because of the lack of neck. Is that really? Money's not a question. So, is it really that much more productive and cost benefit to do that? Because every other piece is the same. What do you think?
Yeah, when you said that, I kind of cringed a little inside because. Well, what's in the neck? Honestly, we don't know, because we know in the refit Enterprise there's the main warp core and reactor, and then the shaft that goes up straight up the neck into the impulse crystal, which powers the impulse drive. So really, what's in the neck of the Connie? There's maybe some kind of core for the impulse engine, but we don't. According to the blueprints, there's not. But that's another story. Turbolift shafts and a few observation little things. That's about it. So I like the way this opens up possibilities for more deck space, because you're cutting that neck out. You're kind of merging the top of the secondary hull with the with the primary hull.
Yeah,
So you could have I think you could have a much larger and more functional engine room in this Baltimore design.
Actually,
just where everything's placed. The impulse engines are right there. You got your struts right there. They're not spread back like on the Connie. The struts are way at the back. The impulse engines at the front and up.
So really, I think the way to think about this, as you just said, but I want to reiterate, this isn't about saving money. It's about getting most efficiency out of the same components for speed. I wouldn't say for weapons, but for speed, for movability, for like pushing the components the one step above.
Yeah. I'll agree with that.
Cool.
So, cool little ship for sure. I really like it. So the next picture is a shot of it from the top. Again, this works for me. The way this looks, I have no issues with this at all. It actually looks very similar to other ships designs we've seen. Not only the Ares, but other ones that people have kit bashed over the years.
And even one of the JJ verse ships. Again, same dimensions. I mean, that's what it is. Although this makes it look smaller to the Connie. I kind of wish it was a smaller ship, but then why on earth would they build smaller saucers that are identical but smaller?
That's a good point. That's a very good point. Yeah, in my mind, it makes sense that this is smaller as well. But
see, this thing with kit bashing. If you're going to kit bash and make it smaller, obviously, there's just two random models, as it were. But really change the saucer. Cut pieces, add pieces, make it a distinctly different feel. Because there's a reason for the smaller saucer. It's like they built 12 Connies. We only ever saw 12 Connies. That implies that maybe that's one of the primary ships of the fleet. Why would they say, hey, let's build something a little bit weaker, a little bit smaller, and rebuild a whole new saucer and make it look identical? Because consistency in the fleet design. We love our art aesthetics. That's why a kit bash works better, because it's the same components. But I'm just in this scale shot. It's just an interesting thing to talk about. But the next picture is a quite cool ship, sort of an action shot, looking through space, and that's definitely the Ares shot. It's pretty much, which is fine.
Yeah, I mean here you can't see the problems with the sensor dome at all. I mean it looks like it's fine, and
does this work better for you? This is the TOS Ares. This angle, does that work? Does that look better to you? Would you be more happy if that was the TOS Ares as opposed to what Sean Torrenjoe and Tobias and Alec designed?
I don't know if I would say it works better. This angle of it looks really fantastic in my opinion.
Yeah,
I think this is a great shot. And again, with Star Trek ships, some angles look fantastic, other angles look absolutely garbage. I mean, the TOS Enterprise is one of the only ships that actually looks good from almost every angle. All the other ones kind of fall down and on certain viewings. So.
These pretty good from every angle though.
Yeah. Next shot is from underneath, and again, very, very. You can see the kit bashiness of it here, but that's fine.
I almost would have liked if they'd gone the other way. Actually, have like the saucer flipped, so like the secondary hull's above the saucer. That'd look quite cool, I think.
There are designs like that too.
Trek's been out a long time, guys. Peeled kit bash for a long time.
Yeah.
But the next picture is a front-on. This is an aggressive ship. It feels a lot like Miranda class in its aggression, this photo in particular, but has a nice vibe to it. Well, you can see it's just literally painted in or drawn in the. Never has a probe launcher been more simple. But.
Yeah, well, there are circles on that model, so yeah, you just dab the paint on there, which is fine. But yeah, it looks fine. Looks like it would fit in the fleet for me. The next shot is from the back. Again, same functionality as the Constitution as far as the shuttle bay goes and stuff.
But he said it was bigger, which I like, having a bit more space.
We said the shuttle bay was bigger.
Long, deeper. More.
Well, it makes more sense because you can move your engine room up, like I said, kind of.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And the next picture is another comparison with, I guess, second kit bash you made, the Exeter and the Baltimore. Although he's got some more cage elements for that one. So. Okay.
Well, the USS Exeter here is obviously the new Polar Lights 1/1000th scale that he kit bashed. This last picture is a fantastic shot that he put together for us of the great angle that we loved. With the name USS Baltimore. I actually really love this picture. It looks fantastic. And he put the Trekyards com badge up there, which I approve of. So thank you, Brian. Sorry it took a while for us to get to this, but we've been busy and we're doing fan ships now. So
this is the month. So
yes.
you know, part of the legacy of the Trekyards Legacy Month. Any closing thoughts, Stuart?
A very welcome design to the TOS fleet, in my opinion.
Yes.
And if they had done more in the 60s, I think this probably would have likely been one very similar to this. So fantastic job, and I like it. I think it works.
Stuart, you summed up perfectly. So if you want to support this show, either go over to Patreon and support us on a monthly basis with giving what you can, or a one-time donation at trekyards.com. But if you can't support us financially, what can you do, Stuart?
If you can't support us financially, please share this video. Obviously, like the video, subscribe to the channel so you can check out all of our other content. Give us, like I said, give us a like, because the analytics help us. It moves us up in the algorithms and YouTube and blah, 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 technobabble. So please like, share, and just spread the word about Trekyards.
Please do.
So, yeah. So until next time, guys, this has been Captain Foley.
I'm Connor Cockings, and thanks, Brian, for the ship. Until next time, guys. Bye.
Bye-bye for Mission Briefing and Trekyards.